I've been doing a lot of follow-up work on this Pillars of Orthodoxy, and it's found some really, really interesting things. So this is going to be very enlightening for those who've attended with me in the past. You're going to find some new material here when we get to the split, and if we have time, I hope we can get to the great 1204 Fourth Crusade, but I don't know. But if we don't get it, we'll pick it up in September. Just as a quick review, all right, all this is trying to show the building of orthodoxy, okay? Everything that we've done in our church is on tradition. Everything that we sing, everything, all the icons, the actual services, it's all based on holy tradition, based on actual events, things that we can tie back to Christ. And so each step, each week, now this is the third week or third session I've had with you. We started with the apostles. We gave a brief thing on the apostles that established the foundation. They put down the groundworks to build our faith. Patriarchs, bishops ordained the patriarchates, and they led to the establishing of patriarchates. So the bishops, which were originally the apostles who formed different areas, Antioch and Rome and so forth. They placed hands on priests, and eventually they ordained some of them as bishops. Those bishops eventually became patriarchs. So Andrew being a patriarch, and Peter being a patriarch, Mark was a patriarch, and they all grew and established areas of Constantine first. Rome, which is considered first among equals, Rome. Antioch was second. Alexandria was third. And then Constantinople was added after the second ecumenical council it was finalized. It was added, and so we ended up with the five that we have today. Constantinople was put in a place of second position behind Rome. Because it was now the seat of power. Last time I met with you, we talked about how Constantine moved the entire Roman Empire, the government, from Rome to Constantinople. I believe I did cover that, and I'm sure someone will tell me if I didn't. And it was at that point now that he recognized that we really needed to have an organization here. He wasn't too thrilled with what he had seen. There were a lot of controversies, controversy of Arianism. I may have mentioned that in brief, was a main thing. And actually the moving of the Roman Empire was to Constantinople was 330 AD. But in 325 AD, Constantine organized a conference, right? And he invited all the head, what are becoming patriarchs, and the heads of the bishops and of each area to come and organize and listen to some of these disputes that were out there and controversies, such as Arianism. And Arianism had a concept that Christ was of two natures, or not of two separate natures. There was Christ the man, that was one person, then there was Christ the God, totally different people at the time. Christ the God, man could not be God because God resided in heaven. It was that type of thing. There was a lot of, obviously, we did not abide by that. And at 325 AD, at the First Ecumenical Council, that was ruled out. And that was also the place they established the Easter date, which I know I discussed last week. But this first started to set some seeds of discontent, especially in the area of Arianism. It did not defeat Arianism. It was still prevalent, and it would still continue out there, especially in the area in Egypt. The Coptic Church to this day, I believe, still believes in some aspects of it, the Filoque clause that we talked about last week. For instance, they recite the Filoque, which we do not, even though they're considered, Orthodox. So, it didn't eliminate the controversy. By the way, the word Egypt or the word Coptic means Egypt in Greek. Okay, so Egypt is the word, or Coptic is the Greek word for Egypt. So that's why that's the derivation of the word Coptic church, Coptic faith. Going forward, the ecumenical councils, though, will continue to strengthen in their pillars. Each one, and we went over that last week, showing you how each one added a pillar to the foundation that the apostles had set forth. Then the Christian faith started to spread throughout the world. Okay, and we come to where Justinian builds Hagia Sophia, 532 AD. I like to go over that only because it's one of the significant events. What I'm going to go through now is a couple areas of things that happened prior to the schism, the Great Schism. And one of them was this, the building of one of the greatest churches in the world. At the time, it was the greatest church in the world. It was built by Justinian the Great. And once it was completed, he was so excited with what he had, he hollered out with his hands raised. He said, "Solomon, I defeated you." Solomon built the Temple of Solomon. So Justinian claimed his was even greater. But there's just, I mean, unless you go there, there's no way we can describe what this church is. You have to be in there to envision the greatness of it. The crown up top here, there's windows around here, just like our church, okay? And our church sometimes has this effect, if you notice. Now, most of you don't look up and stare at the dome, but singing in the choir area, I get to see the dome a little bit, and I see it sometimes on Sunday. What happens is when the sun hits in the early morning hours and comes through the glass here, or when it sets and comes through the glass, you can't see the structure, all right, the windows, you can't see them. And what it looks like is that this is hanging over, the dome is hanging over the church as a crown, okay? And that was the deliberate construction. That was the concept of the construction of it. It was built with its own audio system, believe it or not. The church is designed to carry sound throughout the church. You can see 27,000 people in that church, okay? Compare that to our church, seats 750, I think it is, total. 27,000 people were able to fit inside Hagia Sophia. It's just an amazing. A football field would sit inside and probably just cover the dome area. That is how big this church was, and it was a little depressing this week to see that President A.R.E of Turkey, seated here, decided that it's time to take it back to a mosque. You know, for 1,000 years, it was an Orthodox church. When the Turks did finally capture Constantinople, reverted to a mosque. They made it a mosque. Then Ataturk, excuse me, the gentleman who's given credit for organizing and bringing Turkey to life in the early 1900s, he made it a museum, and it stayed a museum until this week. And unfortunately, you can see all these things are covering the magnificent art icons and everything that we have there, and it's just a tragedy, but that's what it is. Okay, so Constantine moves the seat of power in the Roman Empire to Constantinople. What I'm reviewing here, and we're going to go into detail on some of these, is these are the seeds of the Great Schism. The Great Schism is really a misnomer. Or at least from our understanding of it. I know some of you, if we said, well, when was the Great Schism? You all say, oh, that happened in 1054. And if I ask you what it was, you were going to say that the church is split. East went to the east and the west went to the west. Everybody excommunicated one another. And folks, I'm going to tell you today, that's not totally correct. Okay, and we're going to see that when we get into it in a minute here. But the next thing there, the concept of the Church of Councils, that is one of the seeds of the schism. The Great Schism started once Constantine moved the Roman Empire. That did not sit well with the Pope. All right, he was there in the Roman Empire where the power was. Now all of a sudden, power goes to this new place. Constantinople wasn't even one of the original three, and it's all of a sudden, you know, they made themselves the number two. But now they've got the whole power of the Byzantine Empire with them. So from the beginning, the West had some problems with what was going on. Then the concept of the Church of Councils. That is a big thing I spent on the first week in going over with you, the first presentation of the strength of that's why I feel it's one of the original pillars. The Church of Councils. Everything would be decided by councils. That's totally opposite of what the current system is with the Catholic faith. Of course, the Pope is supreme. The church in the East wanted and established the church as a church of councils. The Petrine Promise, the misunderstanding on both sides of the Petrine Promise. Again, you got to go back to the previous weeks to catch up on all this stuff. But the Petrine Promise, did not give supremacy to the first pope or second pope or whatever pope. Petrine Promise was just a promise on salvation, on how the church will grow, and it will grow upon the foundation, a rock foundation. That is why Christ changed Peter's name from Simon to Petros, which is rock. So the understanding when Christ said, "Who do you think I am?" None of the apostles could answer that, but Peter did. "You are the Son of the living God." And Christ said, upon that foundation, I'm going to build my church. Papal supremacy and apostolic succession. We've talked about apostolic succession, but if you tie in papal supremacy, that's where more seeds were said of discontent. Galasius, I don't know if I covered it really strongly enough, but just so you understand, he issued an encyclical saying that the Pope is supreme in all matters of the church, of the faith. He was only in there 4 years, as you see, as the Pope, but that was the first time really that it was certified that the Pope is supreme, okay? So there's another seed that was set. Then we talked about the Filioque Clause and what effect that had, the 3 words and the Son added to the creed. It will lead to some discussion here because the one of the things, well, I'm going to get ahead of myself. Let me just follow along and we'll catch up on all of this, okay? So let's move ahead here, okay, and talk about the issues between the East and the West. There's something else I want to go over first. Let me go down here. I'm just going to decide to move this first because I'm going to jump. I'm going to keep the time level here. All right. What I was the building of the St. Sophia Church was 532. We're now at 692, I believe, somewhere around there. And let me just show you just a couple things here. We're going to be talking a lot about the city of Constantinople. And one of the most amazing things, if you ever get a chance to travel there, is to see, you can see it from miles away. It's the first thing that hits you are the magnificent, magnificent walls. The length of the time of the Byzantine Empire, like I say, 1,000 years, can be attributed to the fact of these walls in great part. As you can see in the figure below, which would have been right about here. Okay, it's hard to see it, but there's a little wall here, right there. Okay, it's hidden by that white thing, but right there's a wall. In between this wall to here, that's this part here, was water. And in the water were snakes, whatever other kind of creatures they can put in there. So anybody attacking, this wall is about 4 feet high. Anybody attacking the city would have difficulty. First, he'd have to easily jump over the wall, but he's going to find himself in water, okay? Meanwhile, there are soldiers here in these areas, right here, by the minarets here, just shooting whatever down, arrows and so forth on them. Then from here to here, that's this distance here, you got a big distance to go. And as you can see, there are more areas for soldiers hidden up here all throughout. And just in case anybody had any great ideas, there's even another moat, another section, which is right back here. So if you're charging there, as you see in the movies, where they come and throw up these big ladders, right? And everybody climbs over the ladders and jumps into the city. That would not happen here. You'd have to go through 3 levels, and this surrounded the city. It had one weak side. One weak side did not have the 3 walls. It only had one wall, and that was on the side of the Bosphorus, which we'll talk about when we get to the battles and the fall of Constantinople. But it's just a magnificent structure. They've rebuilt a lot of it. They filled it in. You can see the new here versus the old here. But they're basically still there. And it's just great seeing them. And I want to mention now, go to 620 AD. That's the date I wanted. Just to fill you in on another very significant thing that happened. At the time, the emperor his name was Heraclius. And they were being attacked. There was word that the Persians were coming to attack Constantinople. Everybody wanted to attack Constantinople. It was the city. When they would salute the city, either through, just a salutation or saying goodbye or whatever, even good morning, they would say to the city, okay? And to the city in Greek is Istanpoli, right? Istanpoli. So it was the center of our faith, okay? And Hagia Sophia, the church, was the center of our faith in Constantinople. And Emperor Heraclius, was a great emperor, wanted to protect Constantinople, so he got his soldiers together and left a few behind. I think it was like 6,000 soldiers behind, and took them to fight the Persians. He would defeat the Persians, all right? But the story I want to tell you is about the Avars. That's a Germanic group that had come down. They were looking for an opportunity to attack Constantinople. Word got back to them that Heraclius, the emperor, had taken all his soldiers out of there, and they thought, well, this is the time. So they planned an attack on Constantinople. Patriarch Sergius, who was left behind there, pulled out an icon that he was very fond of. It's called the icon of the A.R.E. You've seen it everywhere, or versions of it everywhere, and I'm going to show it to you in a second. As a matter of fact, I'll show it to you now. There it is. And actually, that's the original one. It's in Mount Athos. It was one of the 17 icons that St. Luke painted. Okay, it's in, there's hardly any left of it. It's all silver plated to protect it. You got a face here, you can see it in a hand. I know it's difficult to see it. I'm going to show you another icon in a second that'll give you better understanding of this icon of the Odigidria in Greek. And he took this icon and walked around the walls of Constantinople. You can do that, all right? The old city of Constantinople, which is now Istanbul, the old part, though, you could actually walk around it. It's a long walk, but you could do it in several hours. And he took this icon and walked around, and with the Themiaton, they were chanting and everything to pray and protect the city. Well, these Avars, they came prepared for a big battle. I've heard different figures. I've read different figures. Could have been anywhere from 60,000 to 100,000 soldiers that they had. They came first by sea, and they tried to attack by sea, but over the walls, the Byzantine soldiers would throw over this, what they call Greek fire. Fire is something it's a marvel even today, that it actually burns on water. All right, water does not put it out, and it just in hours wiped out the entire navy that the Avars had sent to cross into Constantinople. They then went to look at the northern side of Constantinople, and they saw soldiers, a lot of land soldiers coming to attack. The majority of the soldiers were on the land side. And as they were attacking, they stopped and then turned around and started to run the other direction, run away. And when the soldiers of the Byzantine Empire, went out. They went out to, grab and attack them, from behind, and they grabbed several prisoners. When they brought the prisoners back, they interrogated them, and they said, why did you leave? Why did you run away like that? You could have walked right into the city. You outnumbered us 10-1. And they said that, well, didn't you see the woman flying out of the sky in a black robe with a flaming sword attacking us and defeating us? This was a miracle that is in many, many study books that you read, not only Greek books, but in history. It reports all the incidences that I just told you right now. And they went, let me go ahead here now. This is the wall of the far side. Let me see, let me go down here to catch you up to a picture here. Oh, did I pass it? Where is it? Here. Okay, this is the area I'm talking about now. Okay, when the soldiers or the sailors attacked, they came in this way. They wanted to get into this side, but they couldn't because there was this chain that they put across here. The soldiers, the government of Constantinople had this chain they couldn't get into. This is the Bosphorus. This is the weaker side of the walls because of the waterway and that it was impenetrable. It's called the Golden Horn. I think I have a picture later to show you because the sun sets here and this becomes gold. Okay. But the area we're talking about today is here. This is the area of the Vlacherna. This is where the emperor would stay. This is like his like Curie Beach, his summer retreat. It's supposed to be cooler over there, and he only went from here to there. And like I said, I already told you could walk around this in several hours. This is where Hagia Sophia Church is down here on the bottom. So let's go to the picture now that you know where it is. Where was it? It's this way. There we go. And so there's the picture of the wall, and that's the area of Vlacherna, the summer palace. This was taken around the late 1800s, I believe. And this is the church that is built here now in place of it. It's very, very significant because it's at this church after the defeat of the Avars that they gathered. Of course, again, remember the church is here. It's no longer there. This building has replaced it. And they sang this hymn that we continue to this day to sing, and they recited salutations for the protection of the Virgin Mary. They read scripture and writings asking the Virgin Mary to protect us as they protected Constantinople. And those are the 5 services we do prior to Holy Week. They're called the Hieretismi. And that's in reference to the salutations that are sung and said and chanted. And it's also called the Akathasti, the Akisti, I believe, which in Greek means without sitting. That service, we all stand up during that service. We do not sit down. And these hymns are recited. And this was the first place this hymn of the Dine Permakon was chanted. And Dine Permakon, that's the Greek word for it. And I don't know all the words in English, even though I'm a chanter back there, but it sticks in my mind in Greek. But it's the hymn that we just got finished singing it. We sing it each week during Lent on Sunday. We were singing it every Sunday, and we sing it several times, twice at the Hieretismi service. To you, O champion. I'm not going to sing the whole thing, just to give you an idea, so that you see that how old our hymns are, how old parts of our services are. And this is the icon of the Orthodox. And this one is in the church here. The one I showed you was here at this spot, but it's now on Mount Athos. Okay, so you can only see this in here. And it's the Odod, and Tria. The last 4 letters are spelled Tria, 3. There are 3 modes on this icon. It's a magnificent icon. Like I say, you'll see it everywhere you go. In every church, there's a version of it. The first thing you see when you look at the icon is the face of the Virgin Mary. And she's looking back at you. And she is saying, don't look at me. she points with her hand, look at him. Okay, that's the second part. Yeah, he's the one that will bless you. And if you look at Christ, here's his hand here, he's blessing you in return. Okay, so the face, the hand pointing, and the three. Very beautiful, significant icon there, and the Din Epermachon. Okay, now let's go back to some of these things now that happened here. All right, so now we're going to go, and that was 620, I believe. All right, we talked about the Phocian Schism last week. That was the 800s, 816, somewhere around there. And now we're up at around 1054. In this period, like from the very beginning even, seeds were being set, as we covered earlier, of really discontent between and misunderstandings between the West and the East. I do want to show you one more here. Okay, look at this picture now here, and just follow the arrow along. We got Rome over here, right? Okay, all by itself, as far as the five patriarchates are concerned, because here's Constantinople, here's Antioch, here's Alexandria, and here's Jerusalem. So everything is over here, and Rome is way over here. Rome became, established itself as the supreme patriarch and governed these areas. Okay, you can see them, they're marked as Western here, or Roman Catholic here. These are the areas that they governed, and so they, being out of communications, being so far from the others, the only time that we get together is really through ecumenical councils, and there were many other councils. The ecumenical councils, the 7, weren't the only ones, but still, he was supreme. All right, and he followed. They followed the concept of the Petrine promise that we talked about, and that was a major issue with the church in the East. And then, believe it or not, there was an issue over leavened and unleavened bread. The unleavened bread is an old version from the Hebrew services. They did unleavened, going back to Moses. The reason the unleavened bread was used back then, at the time of Moses, it was during the what would become the Passover, the plague, when the plague came down to kill all the firstborn against Pharaoh. Moses told everybody to go into their homes, put the blood over the doors. We'll talk about that at Easter another time. But prepare quick food, because we're going to run. Once this happens, we got to leave in haste. So make unleavened bread, and that's where it became very, very instrumental as far as the church services, not church, but services of the Hebrew services. So with the Passover of going now becoming the new Passover, Christ is the new Passover, and we'll learn more about that when we get closer to Lent next season. But Christ is the new Passover. We celebrate the Greek word Pascha. I think I covered that. Pascha means literally Passover. And so we don't use unleavened bread because we use the new bread now, which is leavened, life, fullness, the leavened bread. That actually became an issue between the church in the West, the Catholic Church. It was one of the things they looked at when we talk about the actual splitting. That was an issue for them, that they didn't, that they felt we were wrong in using and not using unleavened bread. They argued the celibacy of the clergy. Their priests, as you know, do not marry, and our priests do not marry. The proper way of saying this is that if you can become a priest if you're married, but once you're a priest, you cannot marry. But as far as the church in the West, it was celibacy from the beginning. No marriage at all at any time. If you're going to be in the clergy, you can't get involved in that. That was an issue. There were, believe it or not, the beards were an issue. The beards, the church in the East, as you know, even to this day, they all have beards, right? If you think of the popes and on the shows and TV, they never have a beard. All right, they're all clean shaven. That was an issue. I don't know the derivation or the reason. I know that beards go back to Moses' time, and I'm not quite sure why that was an issue. We covered the Filoque. I'm not going to go over it again, but then there was an issue now. Those were the issues that they had, the Church of the West against the Church in the East. The Church in the East did not like the way they prepared for the Lenten fast. They had moved away from the original fast periods. Even to modern times, they continued to update. I remember as a young boy growing up in Philadelphia that everybody would go and eat fish on Friday. All the Catholic people would eat fish. That's the development of the fish camps. And today now they don't have that requirement. The Church in the West. There was a concern about allowing clergy to partake in battles, to be part of instances like that. That is not the place of the clergy, and the Church in the East had issues with that over the Church in the West. The proper reverence of icons. We're very strong in our understanding of icons, as verified by and confirmed by the Mother of God. When St. Luke painted those icons, the 17 I was telling you about, he showed the first one and maybe all of them to the Theotokos, and they're all of the Theotokos and Jesus. They're all of that. He or she approved of the icons. Okay. And, the icons, I just can't imagine our faith without icons. They're a great source of comfort to us. And as long as we understand that they're windows of heaven, and we're going to do in our new series next year, we will do a whole thing on the icons. The Theotokos as the Mother of God, that was an issue. And that was something that our church, the East, Orthodox Church, greatly believed in. It's confirmed in one of the councils, one of the ecumenical councils. But these were things that probably could have been resolved. Not the Filoque, though. The Filioque, I keep saying it different ways, and it's probably each one's wrong, but I think it's the Filioque. That one is a major issue. But the others could have been resolved, probably. But the following three, and the one being the Petron Promise, which we've talked enough plenty of times today, which is all leading to papal supremacy and supremacy of Rome versus Constantinople. All of these are issues that would lead to a split. The first 8 were throughout the period of the Byzantine Empire, but the final 3 actually finally led to a situation, including the Filoque. You got to put the Filoque down there too, because a church in the 8th century in Spain, Toledo, Spain, added the 3 words and the Son to the creed, which is the 3 words are the Filioque. And I think I did cover this with you, that at first was really condemned by the Church in the West. The Pope condemned it because he was right to condemn it. But then he took a different opinion when it got time when things got heated between the two faiths. And all of a sudden now it became part of what would be the Catholic Church. It became part of their services. So all of these led to the actual split of the church. To say that it was split in 1054 AD, which is the date, is not very. It's not very true. Okay. It started from the time Constantine moved the Roman Empire out of Rome to Constantinople. The Church in the West never got over that. But on July 16th there, that you can see the date, 1054, actually go back a couple months there, and on April 19th, the legation from the Pope Leo you can see the 9th there, led by Cardinal Humbert, arrived in Constantinople to settle the disputes I just went over with you. Okay, if you recall, all these were the issues. All these listed here, you can see them, were issues that they were going to discuss. The ones in white, all right, No discussion on this. No discussion on 9, 10, 11. That wasn't part of the discussions. This is what they were willing to discuss. The Pope wanted them to sit down and work these details out. Cardinal Humbert's personality was very similar to the Patriarch of Constantinople. We're up to number 2 there. Patriarch Michael I, Cerularius. Patriarch Michael I was a very strong-willed, very powerful patriarch. He's the head. Now, we're talking. He's sort of like the Western head of the four patriarchates: Antioch, Alexandria, Jerusalem, and Constantinople. And the problem here was that Cardinal Humbert was also this exact same nature. All right, both very stubborn, very strong-willed people. Cardinal Humbert was not going to be swayed one way, and Patriarch Michael was not going to be swayed the other way. So Cardinal Humbert got his crew together, and they were going to leave Constantinople. They felt they couldn't get anything accomplished. I want to cover one more thing here. If you see number 3 there, where it says Pope Leo dies on April 19th, 1054. And remember, Pope Leo is the one that sent the delegation. Okay. Now he dies, just a couple of days after, almost the same day as when the Cardinal Humbert arrives in Constantinople. That's very significant. So let's keep that in mind here. But as Cardinal Humbert and his delegation are going to leave now, as they leave Constantinople, it's on a Sunday. There was divine liturgy being held in Hagia Sophia. He walks in to Hagia Sophia and lays this what's called the Bull of Excommunication. He lays this bull down. It's just a manuscript in a roll, and it said that it was excommunicating Michael, Patriarch Michael. Keep in mind, it did not say it was excommunicating the Patriarchate or the Church in the East. It was only excommunicating with the authority of Pope Leo, okay, Michael, all right? But Michael is now dead. I'm sorry, Pope Leo is now dead. He's gone. So it sort of, from on the side of the East, lessens the intensity of it now. Patriarch Michael and the Holy Synod anathematized. There's a new word for you. Anathematized. At least it was a new word for me. It's a long one, which really just means that cursed. Okay, cursed. Put a curse on the or cursed. I don't know. We don't believe in evil curses or stuff like that. But that's why they use this word that is a tongue tangler. But the Cardinal Humbert and his legation were the recipients of this. And basically what they were doing is really throwing darts at one another, very strong darts. But when Michael wanted to get to the support of the other 3 patriarchates, the Patriarch of Antioch would not support him in his wishes to excommunicate the Pope. All right? So our church did not excommunicate the church in the West, and the church in the West did not excommunicate our patriarchates in the East. It excommunicated only Michael. So things would really, from this point on going forward, there was actually Metropolitan Callistus Ware wrote a thing on it that said that they actually tried to get together afterwards and tried to resolve this issue. It was a fight. It was a bitter fight, and I don't mean to minimize it. It was very important, and it was very serious, okay? But it was not an excommunication. The churches were still the 5 patriarchates. They had not excommunicated one another. The only issue was the one excommunication of the Patriarch Michael, who, along with the other 3 patriarchates, did not accept the excommunication. Okay, so Patriarch Michael is still in power, and they tried to settle things, like I said, and and it never happened. It actually got worse, and we're going to go on to see where. I've got time. Good. We can talk about how it got worse. But just to resolve this, number 5, at the Second Vatican Council, which is very famous, and I'm sure some of you have heard of it, where the Pope, Pope Paul VI there, lifted, along with Patriarch Athenagoras, who was the Patriarch at Constantinople, and they removed all the blastings and the threats and whatever, the anathemas, as mentioned there, on both sides. So it wasn't until 1965 that they sort of settled that, but we still have not reunited, of course, as you know. So we've covered all this, and now we covered that. So now we can go on to what really split the churches, okay? The patriarchates. It was the Fourth Crusade. We go to the movies. I'm watching it on Netflix. There's a whole series on them, and they're very fascinating. The First and Second and Third Crusade. And the Crusades, for those who don't know the story of them, basically, they were protectors of Jerusalem. They were formed by a group called the Knights Templar, which there are many fascinating books on that, and lots of TV shows that you can find on those. And the Knights would organize armies, which were huge. I mean, 60 to 100,000. Okay, no small armies, big armies. With the blessing of the Pope, and actually the insistence of the Pope. The head of all this was the Pope, and it makes sense. He was the defender of Jerusalem, and the Pope of Rome made sure that there was somebody going down when the Muslims were attacking Jerusalem. They stole they took the cross, from Jerusalem, which was returned eventually. All these things led to a period where, and it was a couple centuries, that these soldiers would go and fight down in Jerusalem. But it was the Fourth Crusade that was horrible. Okay, if there's anything covering what you're going to read about or what I'm going to tell you on this period from Constantine the Great to April 12th, 1204, the worst thing it was the Fourth Crusade. It was organized. It started from Pope Innocent the Third. Do I have his? I don't have him down here. Okay, Pope Innocent the Third is the one who issued the decree to organize a battle to go to Jerusalem. This would be the Fourth Crusade. Okay, and the head of it was this blind man. 90-year-old gentleman, a great warrior, a doge. Doge was the guys that the titles in Venice. Most of the soldiers were from Genoa or Venice. A lot of them were mercenaries that were hired for this. And they were organized by Dandolfo, that was his name, Dandolo, Enrico Dandolo, to go and fight. Now, again, I did tell you the man was blind, and he was blind. He couldn't see a foot. He couldn't see with his arm outstretched. He couldn't see his hand. But he led this army, and prior to that, there was a battle that the Crusaders were involved in, again for the church, that was very costly. Can you imagine what it would be like? The cost of moving that army from Rome all the way to Jerusalem, the food needed, the ammunition. It's just staggering. The pay for the soldiers. So they were bankrupt. They got to a point where they just didn't have the finances to continue. They had a battle right before it, which really wiped them out. And that battle was sort of a side skirmish. It wasn't a major battle, but even that, it just depleted their finances. And so Dandolfo, first, Pope Innocent condemned that little skirmish. Actually, it was a bigger battle. It's not just a little thing, but he condemned it. He said that is not your purpose. Your purpose is to go to Jerusalem and protect, the church down there, our faith down there, against the Muslim interventions. So Dandolo decided instead he's going to go to attack Constantinople. All right. So these are our soldiers, our faith, our people. Right? All part of the patriarchates, the 5 patriarchates. Even with the Pope, not approving anything other than attacking Jerusalem. The Pope was in support of the patriarchate. Instead, they attacked Constantinople, and they desecrated it. I mean, they almost burned it to the ground. The main thing they did, the only reason they didn't burn it to the ground is they weren't trying to destroy it. Okay, we'll give them that. Because immediately afterwards, Dandolo tried his best to build it back up a little bit. It got carried away in battle, and there's so much damage done. But what they wanted was the gold, that they could, in the churches, in Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia was jewels all over the doors, hanging from the chandeliers, the iconography, the value of these things, everything, and then the gold that they used for the chalices and the treasury. They had this Byzantine Empire. This is financing the entire empire of the world. All right, can you imagine what kind of a treasury they had? And they stole all that and took it back mainly to Venice, Italy. So when we go to Venice, Italy, and if you look at St. Mark's Square, and I was going to get a picture of that, but I forgot. Sorry. But outside St. Mark's Square, that's where you see, when you look at the movies, where all the pigeons are flying, right? That big open square there, and you see that beautiful church. Right across the top are 4 horses, the horses of Constantine the Great. They were designed a little bit later, but they were attributed to Constantine. And they brought those back to the St. Mark's Cathedral. That's where they are now. The body of St. Mark was in the Church of the Holy Apostles. They took that back to Venice, Italy, and the treasury and all the jewels. And there's a museum there that has all these things that you can see. Every time I go, I get upset because I have to pay an entryway to go see what belongs to our church. But it's fascinating history, I guess, but it's sad. And this act is the one that really split the church, because now our church could never really forgive their church. As a matter of fact, the Pope recently, just 30 years ago, I believe it was, somewhere 30, maybe 40 years ago, asked forgiveness from our patriarch for the destruction of the Fourth Crusade in 1204, which was really significant, to ask for forgiveness like that. But with the other interventions that were happening, the more further attacks of the Muslim, the war was really developing. It split. If you can picture that map, if you remember that map that I showed you earlier, it sort of divided the area into 2 separate areas now. Church of the East, which now will be known for then and evermore as the Orthodox Church, and the Church in the West, which used the Catholic title. And it's just a picture of the final gates of Constantinople, and there's the blind general, Enrico Dandolo, entering the city. Sad thing. I'm running out of time here, so I'm not going to get to the fall of Constantinople. I'll go a little further. I just want to show you some of the pictures here. I'm taking this picture. Let me see, I get this right, because there's 2 different pictures, one on each side. I took this on each side of if you remember the map I showed you, it's in the shape of like a triangle, right? So what we have here is the inside part of the triangle. This is, no, it's the outside side of the triangle. This is Hagia Sophia Church, okay? This is the church, the mosque, the Blue Mosque it's called. It was the church that, after the fall of Constantinople, that the Mehmet tried to build, or was built right after him, to be the preeminent church in the area. They tried to copy Constantinople, Hagia Sophia. All the churches with the dome, were really a thing that would become known for as Byzantine design. The minarets that you see here were put in there after the fall of Constantinople by the Turkish. Now, this is the other side showing the reverse, so we don't need to see that. And to wrap it all up, it was April 12th, 1204, that Pope Innocent sent the people. That was a typo I have on back there. The Doge Enrico Dandolo is buried, believe it or not. He requested this. Actually, he demanded it, because he was the big guy now once he defeated Constantinople. He's actually interred on the second or third level of Hagia Sophia Church. When we go there, the plaque is still there, and his I don't know if his relics are still there or what, but that's where he is. And it was going down here. John Paul III is the one who asked for forgiveness for what had happened in Constantinople.